Most people have heard of the story of the flood in Noah's Ark. To summarize it really quickly, God sent a great flood to destroy all life on earth. But Noah found grace in God's sight. And so God warned Noah of the coming flood. He warned him to build a boat. And so only Noah and his family were saved on this great wooden vessel, Noah's Ark. So most of us have heard that story. But what a lot of people don't know is why God sent the flood in the first place. It all has to do with the sons of God. So they were a group of individuals, actually about 600 individuals, I believe about 600 individuals in all. And the story of the sons of God is a story that reads like a fantasy right out of a fairy tale. You know, it's got fallen angels, giants and races of giants, and witchcraft, and every speakable and unspeakable evil that you could ever imagine. It's a very unique period in history where these events surrounding the sons of God take place. So, the story of the sons of God comes from three sources. One of those sources is the Bible. Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4, talks about how these sons of God lay with the daughters of men and produced giants. Anyway, the second source for this story is Jewish historian and author Flavius Josephus, who lived around 70 AD, 70 years just after the crucifixion of Christ, or 70 years after the birth of Christ. He lived just after the crucifixion of Christ, 70 years after the birth of Christ. Anyway, Flavius Josephus wrote a book called The Antiquities of the Jews. And in that book, he really just like elaborates on the stories and what the Bible says. And when he gets to this part about the sons of God that the Bible talks about, he calls them the sons of Seth. Josephus does not refer to the sons of God as the sons of God in his account of the story. He calls them the sons of Seth. And that's important to point out because Josephus is more specific about who these individuals are. The Bible in Genesis chapter 6 says sons of God, but Josephus calls them the sons of Seth. But another important point to highlight is Josephus also calls these individuals angels. He says, when talking about the sons of Seth, he says, for many angels of God accompanied with women and begat sons that proved unjust and despisers of all that was good on account of the confidence they had in their own strength. Josephus calls the sons of Seth angels. Why am I making a big deal about this? Because as a Jewish historian that lived over 2,000 years before we did, he's closer to the source. He's closer to the sources of these stories. He's a Jewish historian. He probably knows what he's talking about when it comes to the history of his people. So, Josephus doesn't refer to the individuals in Genesis chapter 6 as sons of God. He calls them the sons of Seth, but he also calls them angels. The last source for this story is the book of Enoch. So Enoch is a very central figure in this story because not only is Enoch one of these sons of God, not only is Enoch one of these sons of Seth, he is a ruler ruling the area at the time this all happens. He's in southern Mesopotamia ruling as a high priest or king or whatever it is. And he's right in the thick of this mess when it sparks off, when it jumps off. He's right in the centered right in the midst of this mess about the sons of God. He's right smack dab in the middle from its very inception. The sons of God were the sons of Seth. Seth meaning the son of the biblical Adam. The sons of God were no stretch ordinary men. Okay? Josephus refers to them as angels for a reason. The reason Josephus refers to these men as angels was because they were holy men. These men were sacred unto God. That's what holy meant. That's what holy means. They were separated unto God. They lived for hundreds of years. They carried and practiced the traditions of their father Seth and their forefather Adam. So indeed, these were a very unique and you can say special group of men. But you make sure you end it with the word men. These men who lived for unimaginable lengths of time, hundreds upon hundreds of years. They were also prophets. So they were very powerful men. Many of them were rulers. And Josephus says they lived in peace for 7 generations. But after those 7 generations, Josephus says they were twice as bad as they were good. The sons of God made a conscious decision to indulge themselves in the desires and all, and I mean all, we're not going into detail, okay? I have in previous episodes. The book of Enoch says that they defiled fish and the beast of the field and the fowl of the air. So if they did that, what wouldn't they defile? And they indulged themselves, knowing they were on borrowed time. And the result was a race of giants. Giants, all 3 accounts refer to the descendants of the sons of God as giants. Another thing I want to point out that Josephus says that the sons of God and their descendants behaved like those that the Grecians call giants. Now, why would Josephus compare the sons of God who are in southern Mesopotamia or who start out in southern Mesopotamia to those that the Grecians call giants? Now let's break that down for a minute. Why would Josephus link these southern Mesopotamians to Greece? The oath was taken on Mount Hermon, which is but a stone's throw from Greece. But second of all, who are those that the Grecians call giants? Well, they could only be talking about the gods of Greek mythology, because throughout Grecian history, those are who the Greeks call giants. They're gods of Mount Olympus. You know them. Now let's take a look really quick at the Greek culture and whom the Greeks call giants and their gods in Greek mythology. If you look at the style, it's very similar to the southern Mesopotamians. It's almost borrowed from it. It's as though southern Mesopotamians migrated and took their culture with them and ended up in Greece, because Greek mythology and Greek tales mirror and mimic southern Mesopotamia. Look at the stories of Greek mythology. Icarus, he built him a set of homemade wings, and he flew and he soared and he mastered the art of defying gravity. Man could now do what only birds could naturally do. But he flew too close to the sun, and the wax on his wings melted, and he plummeted to the earth. Look at Medusa, who was so beautiful that she drew the affection and attention of the gods, which caused the goddesses to be envious and jealous of her. And she ended up getting turned into a hideous monster with snakes for hair, and her piercing gaze would turn men into stone. Or look at the story of Atlas, who ended up having to hold up the atmosphere. Or Pandora and her box full of evil. The point I'm trying to get across to you is that in all of these stories in Greek mythology, they are filled with tragedy and irony and, a lesson to be learned. And they mimic the southern Mesopotamian style and culture in storytelling with these stories of tragedy and irony, but that have a lesson to be learned. Look at the story of Adam and Eve. Does this story of a man and a woman who have it all and live in absolute paradise and fumble and drop the bag after being deceived, after the woman being deceived by the serpent? This story fits right into Greek mythology. The only difference between the story of Adam and Eve and the Greek mythology stories is the time period. The story of Adam and Eve came first. But if you just look at the stories in Greek mythology and look at the Babylonian stories, the Sumerian stories, the stories that were first told long before the Greek mythology stories, the stories that were told in southern Mesopotamia, they mimic those Greek mythology stories full of irony and tragedy and a lesson to be learned through it all. The story of Adam and Eve could easily be a story in Greek mythology. That's all I'm saying. This story is often confused with the story of angels in heaven rebelling and falling to earth, and Lucifer, their leader, deceiving 1/3 of the heavenly host and taking them with him in his exile from heaven down to earth. And in all these things of our imagination, I want you to listen to me very closely. When you misinterpret the Bible, all these things of your imagination will take you on a roller coaster ride through space. Many people will never return from. I want you to look at the slide on your screen. I want you to answer me this. Have you ever seen in real life anything like that? Have you? Do you think you ever will? Do you think anybody else ever has or ever will? One last bit of food for thought. The whole notion of a devil or Lucifer being an adversary to God is poetry. Let me tell you something. God has no adversaries. He has no challengers. Okay? Understand this. God has no challengers. You don't challenge God. You don't contend with God. And when the Bible speaks of it, it's poetry. There is no such thing as fighting God. It's poetry. God has no contenders and challengers and adversaries. It's poetry. When the Bible speaks of adversaries of God or people contending with God, take Jacob wrestling the angel for an example. Jacob is having a dream. There is no contending or wrestling with God in real life. Okay? God has no contenders. I assure you. God has not one, nothing, no contenders. He has no adversaries. When he speaks in these ways, it is for our understanding. It is poetic. I'm not saying it ain't some truth to it, but you have to take it in context. God has no challengers or contenders. When Jacob wrestles with God, it's theater. It's poetry. Jacob is having a dream. He's not really wrestling with God. You'd be surprised what some people think and what they believe. So let me just say it one more time. There is no contending with God. There is no fighting. What are you going to do? Punch him? You're going to punch God? You're going to swing a sword at him? Jacob was having a dream, because there is no such thing as actually wrestling with God Almighty. So as far as this war in heaven, it's a corruption and a misinterpretation of the story of the sons of God. That's all I'm saying. And these sons of God, they didn't have wings. They were special men. Let's give them credit. Let's give these men credit for what they were and what they did. But they didn't have wings sprouting out their backs, and they certainly didn't descend from a spiritual heavenly realm or the sky. As far as the story of the sons of God and God's punishment, we all know how that story ends, don't we? It ends with a flood and a boat. Before God brings the flood, he punishes the descendants of the sons of God in a very particular and peculiar way. He punishes them in two ways. The first way in which he punishes them is that he allows them to punish themselves. You see, the sons of God are a very warlike culture. And all throughout history, them and their descendants are always described in this way as being warlike. They were very sexual, they were very violent, and they were always at war with each other. The accounts of this time period always describe it as a time of continuous and enormous bloodshed. Some accounts refer to it as a time where the very earth was wasting away. What I want to get you to understand is that these giant descendants of the sons of God, who carried on for hundreds of years in this way, they were destroying the very soil of the earth. The very soil of the earth was wasting away. But before God brought the flood, he first punished them by allowing them to continue to beat up on themselves. God said, you're doing such a good job of destroying yourselves, I'm not going to stop you. He says, first I'm going to let them do my dirty work for me. I'm going to let them maim and cripple themselves. Then God did something particularly strategic and spooky and haunting. He plagued them with dreams. He plagued those that he would punish with dreams. From the time that these sons of God take this oath and begin to indulge in their life's and fleshly desires, and God decides that they're going to be punished, from the time that God, through Enoch, determines that they are going to be punished, hundreds of years pass. Over 500 years pass from the time God condemns them till the time he actually brings the punishment. So During this time period, God does two things. He allows them to destroy each other through war, and he haunts them with dreams. Now, why am I making a big deal about that? Ooh, a dream. No, let me explain to you why this is so significant. The sons of God, the sons of Seth, the descendants of the sons of Seth, they're prophets through their father Seth and their forefather Adam. They inherit the ability to prophesy. So God takes what was their talent and he turns it into a weapon. He turns their plus into a minus. He uses their ability to prophesy their own demise. It's very personal because this ability is unique to the sons of God. And he turns this talent, he turns this attribute into a burden for them all the time. Every night, all of them are having these dreams of them dying and God showing them exactly how he's gonna do it. You see, this is why I say there is no fighting God. There is no contending God. There's no contending with God. You can shake your fist at him all you want to. You're allowed to do that, but there is no fighting. What are you gonna tell this God? Tell this God to throw a punch. There is no fighting God. And that is what those that God wishes to punish find out in the most horrific way, in the form of war, tragedy, humiliation, and horrible nightmares night after night after night for hundreds of years. God showing them, hey, don't forget, this is how I'm gonna kill you. There's no running. There's no escape. There's no fighting. There is only succumb and submission. There's no fighting God. So what are the sons of God to do? These once mighty men, the Bible calls them heroes, men of renown. What are they to do? They are at their wits' end. They've done the deeds. They've committed the acts. There's no running, no hiding, nowhere to turn. God has showed them, according to the book of Enoch, God shows them their demise through their unique ability to prophesy. So now what do? They are suffering. They have nowhere to go. They have nowhere to turn. Their only option, their one and only option, is to parlay. The sons of God and their descendants turn to Enoch because they have nowhere else to turn. And let me tell you, never before in history have hardened, powerful, and great men of great stature ever bent so low to kiss soft, wrinkled ass. A testament to just how powerful this man Enoch was. And why was it that they came groveling to Enoch? Well, it's because they know that Enoch has the ear of God. You see, as the saying goes, and it even says this in the Bible, Enoch walks with God. Turns out that means something. Now, we can debate as to what that means, but back in Enoch's time, let's just say Enoch had a reputation. And what his reputation was that he was close to God. He had a close and personal relationship with God, so much so that it was said that he walked with him. So this tradition or this reputation preceded Enoch. Everybody knew this about him, that he had this special relationship with God. Everybody knew that he was a son of God. Everybody knew he had this trick that he could do to where he so-called walked with God. And so if you want to get a message to God, Enoch is the perfect guy to do it for you. And so that's why these walking behemoths, these giants, bent the knee and came groveling. It was because of Enoch's unique ability. And they thought that they could somehow get a message to God through Enoch, a message of parlay, a message of mercy. And what a sight to behold. That must have been a sight to behold. To see these walking massive titans coming to bend the knee to this old feeble individual. But that's kind of God's thing, ain't it? That's kind of his bread and butter as to how he shows you his power. That's a display of his power. Like David told Goliath, the weapons of warfare are not carnal. God shows you, I don't need big muscles. I could do it. It's more fun, to topple a kingdom with a flea than it is, a dinosaur or something. God got that thing about him, that way about him, where he liked to kind of, I don't want to say show off, but he kind of like to let you know what's up, what you dealing with. And so this image of these humongous creatures coming and bending the knee and begging Enoch for help is just something to really take in. These descendants, these giants, they want Enoch's help. They'd like to utilize his talents as one last plea, one last fourth and long, one last Hail Mary to get God's attention, because these dreams that they are having are just too much to bear. And here's the thing. Enoch wants to help them. I want you to think about that for just 60 seconds. Enoch wants to help. All three accounts of the sons of God allude to or describe them as evil people once they turn corrupt. These are evil people. Why would Enoch care? Why wouldn't he want to see them get their comeuppance? Why does Enoch seem to have skin in the game? Enoch wants to help, and here's why. Enoch wants to help because these are his relatives. These are his kinfolk. These are his kinsmen. He too is a son of Seth. He too is a descendant of Seth. He too is a son of God. These relatives who went astray are family. So understand, Enoch is not just doing this because he'd like to help his fellow good man, though he may have done that if it was just his fellow good man. But no, this is family. This is a family affair. I want you to know the facts so you know the position this man is in. So check this out. Enoch puts in his petition to God. He goes and consults with God in good faith on behalf of the sons of God, the condemned fallen angels who God has sworn to punish. Enoch goes to God and petitions for mercy for the sons of God. The short of it is that God says no. God says no, Enoch, there is not going to be any mercy here, but I tell you what you do. God says you are to go back and tell the sons of God, I'm going to unleash all holy ass whooping upon all the earth. None will survive. You and your children will most certainly be destroyed. You go back and tell them that. And I mean, let me tell you, I wouldn't have wanted to been Enoch in those shoes. But once again, it's a testament to just how powerful this man was. He held the fate of very powerful men in his palm. Enoch does his job, whether reluctantly or not. Enoch does his job. He goes back and he condemns the watchers, the sons of God. They're called the watcher. They're called the watchers. Enoch goes back and condemns them. He says, thus saith the Lord. You know how it goes. As far as the descendants of the sons of God, Josephus describes them as the sons of Seth. So every descendant and family member of the descendant on this list from Seth on down, even down to Abraham, is a son of God. I want you to understand that. Noah isn't born when this happens. When God condemns the sons of God, Noah isn't happened. But we know in the 500th year of Noah, it begins to rain. And if you're wondering what God's angels really look like, then look no further than this slide. Trillions upon trillions of raindrops per second. Each one of those raindrops is an angel of God. That's what an angel of God really looks like. And so that's what happened. One day in the 500th year of Noah, it began to rain. And it didn't stop for 40 days and 40 nights. And make no mistake, this was not just rain. The Bible says, and the waters of the deep were broken up. This was a flood. This was a swell from above and below, a simultaneous double flood from above and below. The punishment of the sons of God was very effective and efficient. It's like my parents used to say, if we get everybody, we'll get the ones we want, or we'll get the right ones. It is a very broad-stroked but efficient and strategic strategy. I'd like to thank you for joining me for this episode of Son of a Preacher Man. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. If you got any compliments, comments, or insults, leave it in the comment section. If you got any topics you'd like me to talk about or questions you'd like me to answer, leave it in the comment section. I'll see you same soap time, same soap channel. Soapman out.